Good evening and welcome to the Caldor Incident Community Meeting on August 23rd, 2021. My name is Ryan Lubin, Public Information Officer for Cal Fire Incident Management Team 6, and I'll be bringing some updated information for you here in the community meeting along with some of our section chiefs and ICs to update you this evening. So, give you some updated numbers for the incident here. Currently, the acreage is at 106,562 acres. We're sitting at 5% containment with 1,745 personnel assigned to the incident. I'd like to remind everybody, as always, this information changes every 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. We also push out updates throughout the day, depending what they may be, evacuation warnings and/or orders through our platforms. We have posted those platforms everywhere. We encourage everybody to go to our email sign up. Make sure to sign up for those emails so that way you get those updates as we push them out and you stay informed immediately when we put them out. With that being said, I'd like to bring up a few things for you. As you know, this incident's been going on a little over a week now. It's a very complex incident. We're trying our hardest to make sure to get you back to your homes as quickly as possible and return the area back to normal as quickly as possible and as safe as possible for you. To bring into consideration what's going on around the state, I'd like you to understand that as of right now, in 2021 to date, so from the beginning of the year to right now, we've currently burned 1,570,151 acres. Compared to last year, that is a 42% increase of our acreage burned to date. With this historic drought and fire season, that's a huge load on us, and we're trying to work as hard as we can and as quick as we can to get you back into your homes, in your community as quickly as possible. So with that, I'd like to bring up our Ops Section Chief, Chief Schwab, for an update on what's going on the fire.
Good evening. My name is Eric Schwab, Operations Section Chief for Incident Management Team 6. I got quite a few questions. I'll start out with an update and then I'll break into answering some of your questions for you. So along the heel of the fire, we're showing in Division U, Division W black line, we've continued to make progress at the heel of the fire, which is where we like to start from so we can start building up the right and left flanks of the fire. We added a little bit of additional black line in here, not completely across though, because we're still continuing that the fire is established in the middle fork of the Consumnes, and it is continuing to challenge our lines in there. We will be in here tonight extending a firing operation that we started out last night. Crews were in there today continuing to prep that line for firing operations when conditions dictate and become favorable for us this evening. Moving up into Division Delta, yesterday we completed a firing operation below Jenkinson Lake, ended it at Sly Park Road, and tonight we'll be picking it up from Sly Park Road and taking it down Sly Park Road approximately a mile to a mile and a half based on conditions. No fire has crossed onto the other side of Sly Park Road. Sly Park Road, keeping the fire below it, is one of my main control objectives. As we move up onto Highway 50, things are looking good all the way across Highway 50 until we get up to the very head of the fire. We did get a spot fire across on the north side of Highway 50 several days ago. That fire is continuing to grow to the west. We have pretty much stopped the spread of the fire to the north, and to the east it's approximately 400 to 500 acres in there being heavily worked today. As we move across the head of the fire, this has become a huge priority to stop the eastern spread of the fire. As you can see on our map, we have a new area, a spot fire that's currently growing. It's spreading at a fairly rapid pace right now. We've got folks working into it. It's about 100 acres. It has not reached our decision point to do any additional evacuations, and it's late in the evening, so I'm confident that the fire behavior will calm down. We're moving additional equipment in there right now, and I hope to get around and check this. This spot fire is still within my primary control line that I'm trying to get constructed off the MET down Silver Fork. Division Lima, Nora, and Papa. We've had folks out there again monitoring that. Again, it's that time of the day, late afternoon, the inversion lifts. It seems like every day I get 3 to 4 points on the fire that become active. We're in that time right now. Another one of those active points is down here in Division R. The fire's still within our perimeter, but it is active, making a run up to the ridge line. We back folks out of there, we'll let it settle down, and we'll get back in and re-engage. That's the update. I'll hit a couple of the questions while I'm up here. Question about the town of Strawberry. We're right up in there in Strawberry. We've had hundreds of fire engines, crews, bulldozers in there for several days doing structure preparation, making those homes so they can stand for the fire to come in there. Fire behavior coming down the ridge line into Strawberry is backing fire, very low intensity fire. It's that spread to the east where we pick up that intensity. Fire has not crossed Sly Park Road. We are doing a firing operation that we will be conducting for the next few days along Sly Park Road, and I have about 200 folks in there, fire engines, crews, bulldozers, all of that. We've done a ton of prep work in there, fuels reduction and pre-treatment with retardant to help support that operation. Question, do the prescribed burns or the burning operations that we do count as part of the fire perimeter? Yes, we use, we call it, our firing shows create black line for us, and that creates additional percentage of containment once we get that area mopped up. Decision point, she covered that one. Division Delta at Sly Park Road, what measures are being taken to keep the fire on the east side of the street? Again, covered on it. We've done fuels reduction projects along Sly Park Road to reduce fuels to so when we do our firing operations in there, we have a low intensity fire. We pre-treated with retardant and broadcast fuels, thin them out. What is the plan for holding the eastern perimeter of the fire from entering the Tahoe Basin? The plan is to put in as big of a dozer line as I can off the Mormon Immigrant Trail, following Silver Fork, all the way down on a ridge system on Highway 50. Again, the fires is making a little push at us in that area, but we still have a couple miles before it reaches my proposed dozer line that is going in there. The last question I have, what are we doing to keep the fire south of Wentworth Springs Road? Wentworth Springs Road is our big box, and what we're doing to keep the fire from getting to Wentworth Springs Road is we're actively holding Highway 50. We will do burning operations in these sections. If the fire intensity picks up, we'll actually start backfires here to blacken this in to get rid of the spotting potential, and we're actively trying to suppress the spot fire on the north side to reduce any additional threat to Wentworth Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to remind everybody that's online, thank you for joining in. And those of you on Zoom, please type your questions. We're answering those, as well as Facebook Live. We are writing those questions down and answering them to the best of our ability and as many as we can. So with that, I'd like to bring up our law enforcement liaison, Tony Tam, with some questions about the road closures and evacuations.
Good afternoon, Tony Tam with Law Enforcement Liaison with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 6. In terms of the update, in terms of evacuation warnings and orders, there has been no changes to those. You can see the evacuation map on the PIO website. To answer a couple questions, and just a reminder, for warnings, evacuation warning is just that. It's telling you to get prepared. You do not have to leave your home or residence at that time. However, based upon changing fire conditions, you need to get ready. So gather up the things you need, prepare for evacuation route, a way out, and where you're going to go and to gather your resources. And then the evacuation order is just that. We need you guys to get out of the way so that fire operations can be performed safely, and your life safety is taken care of. To answer some questions for you, when will evacuations be lifted, and what will they be in stages or by neighborhood? That's on a case-by-case basis. Our priority is to get everyone back in as soon as we can. If it's operationally smart to do so by neighborhoods or by stages, we will do that depending on the fire conditions, and we'll do that as soon as we can. It's safe for people to do so. Are there any updates to letting back in at this time? There are no changes to the evacuation orders or warnings. And the last question is, how can we prepare for evacuations? Obviously, gather the things that you need to have or want to have with you. Think about ways out, a primary route and an alternate route, because sometimes the primary route you have may be blocked or may not be accessible. Gather all the medications you need and things that you need to sustain yourself for several days in the event you cannot get back into your home. That is the end of the report for law enforcement liaison.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to go ahead and bring up one of our unified ICs, Chief Martin, to answer some questions.
Good evening, Dusty Martin, one of the Unified Incident Commanders. So I got a series of questions here that I'll go through with. There's a couple of questions that are circling around air quality. And how long will the hazardous smoke conditions continue to be expected? As long as we have active burning and active fire runs, we will see the smoke issues in and around. It's compounded not just from this fire, but the multiple other fires burning in the North State, and it all depends on the wind direction is pushing that smoke from one area to the next. So I would say that we'll probably see those conditions around for some time. There was a question about what kind of masks are firefighters wearing to protect themselves. While we were out on the fire line, we're unable to wear masks due to the inhibitants of being able to breathe in Duress work. And with high activity, we need to make sure that our firefighters can breathe the best they can. While they're in the base camp setting here and not working out on the fire line, they are wearing masks to protect themselves. But while they're actively engaged in firefighting, most of them are not wearing masks. There were some questions about COVID precautions being taken in the fire camp. We are taking COVID extremely seriously here in our fire camp in Placerville, and we've got multiple measures in place with wearing masks while indoors, maintaining your social distancing, frequent hand washing. We have some measures to that check temperatures as everybody walks into our base camp to ensure that nobody has got a fever and goes for additional screening. We also have our partners with CalMat that are here, which we have doctors, physicians, nurses, to also help treat all of our firefighters here that have the ability to do COVID tests if someone has COVID-like symptoms. And then we're following El Dorado County Public Health and their policies and procedures here to ensure that we meet the need. Another question came up is, do we have any military help at scene? And that answer is yes. We have the National Guard that's here in a couple of different fashions. We have some with air assets. We're using them to help bring fuel to our incident so we can keep our fuel trucks and our equipment fueled. We have our California National Guard hand crews with a partnership with Cal Fire that are here. So we do have a number of military resources here. There's been some questions about retardant use and air support. So the first question is, the retardant ever used in neighborhoods to prevent spot fires? So we do use it in around the structures. We do use it to back up control lines, to prevent additional fires to be started in that area, and it buys the ground firefighter some time. So one thing to understand is fire retardant doesn't suppress fires, it slows the spread of the fire. All of our air assets are there to support the firefighters that are working on the ground. So it will slow the spread so that we can get the ground troops in to really extinguish the fire. There was a question about if air support can't fly due to smoke, why can't they use infrared to see and dump retardant on the fire? So flying in the fire environment is inherently dangerous. Not only with the terrain and the fuels and large trees becomes really dangerous, and then you add smoke to that. Right? At the end of the day, our goal is that every single person gets home and goes to their family at the end of the day, and we're unable to take those risks in the smoky environment. Now, we do have aircraft that are flying at night when the air is clear, and they are using night vision goggles to do that, and that has been a proven and effective resource to have to us, but when it's really smoky, we cannot fly. The last question I have is there's a lot of questions about South Lake Tahoe and some inaccurate information. So South Lake Tahoe, there's currently 0 evacuation warnings or orders in South Lake Tahoe. We are having discussions and in conjunction with our partners in South Lake Tahoe and looking at some long-range planning. But as we speak, there is no evacuation orders or warnings in the South Lake Tahoe Basin. You can go to the El Dorado County website and find the current evacuation warnings and orders to stay informed, and we can get that through our incident PIOs. Will also help message that out. But I just want to make sure everybody is clear. Last night, Chief Blankenheim did talk about a large planning box, and it is our intention to keep that fire long a ways from there. But we do have to plan for the long term, and that's where some of those questions and probably discussions came in with South Lake Tahoe. But I want to ensure you, it is our ultimate goal is to keep it out of there. And our operations talked about that today, talked about that eastern side of the fire. But understand that if we can't hold that, there's always that possibility, and that is why we are having some of those discussions. But at this point, we have not met any trigger points to evacuate anybody in the Tahoe Basin. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd also like to bring up our other unified IC, Ben Newbern, for some more questions.
Good evening, folks. A handful of questions here. First, a weather update, and I'll go out, say, 5 days or thereabouts. For the next 48 hours through Wednesday, we're expecting to see similar weather to what we're seeing today. Light southwesterly winds, warm temperatures, and similar humidity values to what we've seen today. After that, we're going to see the winds decrease considerably. Temperatures will warm up quite a bit as high pressure builds in, and you'll see the smoke linger around a lot longer as we go into an inversion that holds the smoke, keeps it from being mixed out. And that takes us through the end of this coming week into the weekend. A few other questions. If the fire goes north of Highway 50, what will be the impact of all the granite and the rock open areas in the Desolation Wilderness, and will that play a role in stopping fire spread? So the simple answer is yes, that will. The area north of Highway 50 along the rim looking down into the Lake Tahoe Basin, the Desolation Wilderness, is likely to slow fire spread. There are still areas where fuel will allow fire to burn through there, but certainly not in a way that we've seen down here in the lower elevations. And we're looking forward to using that as a potential barrier to fire spread should it come to that. There is more concern about fire spread down along the Highway 50 corridor and south of Highway 50, where there are more continuous fuels and we don't have as much rock. Another question about the U.S. Forest Service cabins, the recreational residents along Highway 50. As Chief Schwab, one of our operations section chiefs, mentioned earlier, we have a considerable number of resources in the Highway 50 corridor working to prepare the structures there. That includes the Forest Service recreational residence cabins to be ready to accept fire when and if that should happen, and making every effort we can ahead of the fire reaching them to protect those values. And as a follow-up to that, how can people be prepared for fire? So two main websites you can go look at. The first one, firewise.org, and the other one, readyforwildfire.org. Both websites have very important information on how you can prepare your home and your property for fire, and it would be wise to have that done not just now, but at all times, knowing that fire can always occur at any time.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to bring our Ops Section Chief, Eric Schwab, back up.
Okay, a couple of questions regarding our hand crews. We have all sorts of hand crews on the incident, to include California Conservation Corps hand crews in coordination with CAL FIRE, our inmate crews with a partnership with CDCR here, interagency hotshot crews, Type 2 crews, Type 2IA crews, and Type 1 crews. We're taking all of them, and we have work for them all. Questions about there's several tracks, as people know, along Highway 50 with multiple cabins in there. I can tell you every single cabin and every single track has had a fire engine parked at it, and that structure has been assessed, and work has been done to help prepare that structure. And before the fire gets down there. The fire, again, I said it's still, you can see there's a lot of spots along 50 where the fire hasn't even made it down there yet. It's only made it down there in a couple spots, and that fire behavior as it comes down that ridge is backing fire, which we can handle, and we can deal with that and extinguish that and defend those structures. Status update of Grizzly Flats. Grizzly Flats, fire keeps challenging us in there. Again, there's two forks of the Consumnes River right there. They're, 1,500 foot deep drainages with a lot of fuel in there. And basically the fire came out of there yesterday and challenged us in a couple of spots, and that's where we implement our back burning tactics to stay ahead of the fire. So basically the fire's traveling down canyon. As it eats along down canyon in the bottom of the creek drainages, it'll make a slope run up to the top and challenge us at Grizzly Flat. And our mitigation for that one is to go in and create defensible space around the structures and there pre-treat those structures, attack spot fires with engines, and when the weather allows us, we start backfires along the top of the rim behind people's residences, let that fire back down into that drainage, and we get way out in front of the main fire to reduce that fuel and eliminate the fire's ability to run up and challenge those structures. And again, as I said in the briefing, we're doing that in multiple spots, multiple points on the fire to facilitate structure defense. How do dozer lines work when the fire seems to jump and start spot fires over those control lines? Yeah, you're exactly right. In a timber fuel model, the spot fires we've seen anywhere from 500 feet to several miles away based on the wind conditions, and the way I mitigate that is I have to get far enough off the fire's edge to make sure that those spot fires aren't jumping our control lines, and when those spot fires do occur, we utilize those aircraft, those infrared aircraft, to identify those through the thick smoke. They give us a latitude, longitude, and I send in ground troops, and we go in and suppress those spot fires. And Kybers, again, structure defense. Every single residence has had a body at it, a fire engine at it, looking at it, and when the fire is coming down the hill, that's where we pile resources into to mitigate that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to bring up Tony Tam again as our law enforcement liaison for some more evac repop questions.
The question we had was, are we escorting or providing escorts for people within the evacuation area to get medication or things like that? We are not. Just to consider, if you are in the evacuation order area and you need to get out and you have conditions such as medical or possibly disability, I think that's just another reason why you need to really consider getting out at this time when we have daylight and there's no fire rushing at you right now when you have the time. If you are under those circumstances and it becomes an emergency to get out at that point and you have these conditions that may hamper your ability to do so safely, and that's our priority. We want to get you out safely so that your health and safety is priority.
Thank you, sir. And with a few more questions in our closing comments, one of our unified ICs, Dusty Martin, and then I'll follow up with a couple closeout questions in the information.
So there was a couple of questions about what is long range? What is long range planning? So long range could mean days or weeks. It is dictated by the fire conditions. So we are planning for days ahead. We are planning for weeks ahead. That schedule may get moved up or moved back based off of the current fire conditions. The fire conditions will dictate how that response is. But just understand we are planning for the near future and then a little bit farther out as we talk about our planning. So lastly, I'd just like to remind everybody that CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service are in cooperation and partnership, and we are lockstep together, working together, making decisions together, and planning together. Both agencies are side by side here all day, every day in the base camp and out on the fire line. We have the same mission, we have the same priorities, we have the same objectives to get accomplished each and every day. Incident Management Team 6 has been hired here to come and organize this incident and bring it to and mitigate the incident. And we are doing everything we can in our powers to do that. I would just like to remind everybody that it is one of our top priorities to get each and every one of you back into your homes. We will do that as soon as possibly safe to do so. As the fire conditions allow and we can get our fire personnel in there to make sure that's safe, we will get you back in your homes. It is going to take time, but remember, that is one of our top priorities, is to repopulate the community and get you back home. Have a great night.
Thank you, Chief. With a couple more questions we got, there's one here of how can we donate, how can we help? So we're asking that all donations donate to your local Red Cross, our local shelter of where the families affected by the fire are. That's where the most need is for donations. So another one for us is a link to sign up for emails. Where are they posted? That link is posted in the comments on the Facebook Live. We're pinning that to it. We also have it in the other social media sites that we're posting those updates at daily, so you can see that there. Along with that is where can I go to see the evacuation, the map, basically the evacuation warning and order map that's put out through the county. So on that new update that's going to come out tonight, there is going to be a single QR code along with the websites that are already on there. But that single QR code, when you hover over it and you open up that web link, that's a link tree. There is all the websites that you need to go to, from email sign up, the evacuation map, to the code red sign up for both Amador and El Dorado counties, to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Ready, Set, Go, Ready for Wildfire. All that information that you would want is right there at your fingertips. Additionally, has the governor declared a state of emergency? Yes, the governor's declared a state of emergency for the county of El Dorado. And with that, I'm going to close out for those that may have come on a little late to update with the numbers. So again, our current acreage is 106,562 acres, 5% contained, and 1,745 personnel assigned to the incident. Again, those numbers are going to change and are subject to change. And we put those updates out every 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. With that, have a good night, stay informed, and stay safe.